Okay. Hi, once again. Have you been having a good time? So, I would like you people to do something for me. I promise you that if you give me your attention for the next 25 minutes, or 20 minutes that I will be on this stage, this will probably be the highlight of this conference for you. You've probably all day listened to like tech talks and, tech talks. But I don't think anyone has actually taken the time to talk about your career, irrespective of whatever it is you do, but like just sharing tips of how you can build the career that you're proud of. And that's what I'm here to do. So if you give me 25 minutes of your time, be engaging. I ask questions. You encourage me by being engaging. I promise that this would be the highlight of this conference for you. Are you ready? Yes. Thank you. That's the energy I need. Now, raise your hands if you're in this hall and you haven't actually started a career yet, and you're wondering, like, what should you do? Maybe you want to get into tech, which is actually why you're here. But there are so many options, and you can't make up your mind on which path to go for. Just raise your hands. Let me see. Good. Didi, why are your hands up? And then, for the next set of people, it would be those that you have started your career, but your current job, you just have lost interest in it. It's monotonous to you, it's stressful, you drag your leg. Like, you're at a crossroads, you know very well that this cannot be what you would do in the next 2 years. Like, you're fed up, but then you don't know where else to go from there. Raise your hands. Interesting. So all of you are happy with your lives. Is that what you're saying? Okay. In situations like this, the typical advice you'd get is to follow your passion. But I'm a very vivid hater of that advice for obvious reasons. Because one, the advice to follow your passion is neither practical nor actionable. You're told to follow your passion, but then how do you figure out what your passion is? What's your passion? It's ephemeral, it's intangible. You can probably not define it, And if you study the story of a couple of professionals and people that have built great careers in their lifetime, you find out that they didn't wake up and have this grand passion that they dedicated their life to. Now, granted, some people, are born with like a passion antenna that they come into the world, they have like a specific set of things or something that they're passionate about, and they end up building their entire life around that. That's perfect. But the truth is that those types of people are the 1% of the 1%. They are the exception. That's not normal. If you study the lives of the professionals that you probably admire and you probably look up to, you find a single note in their lives, and it's that they came to stumble into what they now say they love and they're passionate about. A couple examples. If you think about the Starbucks, Howard, the guy behind it, he was passionate about athletics, law, he did a bit of equipment sales, did consumer goods at some point, and then ended up buying a coffee store that he did not found, and then grew it to the brand that Starbucks is today. One of my favorite shows, or my mother's favorite shows growing up, was the French chef, Julia Child. She was responsible for bringing or introducing Americans to French cuisine. And if you look at her career trajectory, you find out that she started in advertising, then worked with the CIA at some point before discovering her love for cooking at age 36. Vera Wang, if you follow Bella Naija, you probably know Vera Wang. She's a bridal designer. And Before becoming a luxury bridal designer, she started out in figure skating, did a bit of journalism, became an editor, and then got into fashion designing at age 40 and has built the empire that she's now saying, or she's now most popular for, and people allude to being her passion. There's also 48 Laws of Power, which probably a couple of people here have read. Robert Greene, the guy who wrote the book, I think he probably took Figure Out Yourself a bit too seriously because he stumbled over, give or take, 80 different jobs before he wrote this book, which is now very popular for. And so I think the point I'm trying to make is that most people who have built great careers have a career trajectory that is quite similar to how a ping pong kind of like oscillates. It's never steady. So these are, when I say that passion is not sustainable and passion, like follow your passion, is bad advice, this is why I say so. Because first things first, for most people, you can't do your passion at a professional level. I'll give you an example. Me. This is funny, but like, when people ask me what I'm passionate about is sleeping. No, I'm serious. I've spent insane amounts of time digging into the theory of sleep. Sleep inertia, REM cycles, circadian rhythm, what have you. I actually spend insane amount of time digging into the theory of sleeping. But the thing is, what am I going to do with that passion? Like, you know how people are like, oh, I'm struggling to sleep. For me, I am actually always awake by a strong share of like force of nature. I have to compel myself to stay awake. Like there's nothing else I would rather be doing in the world than sleeping. But now the problem is, what am I going to do with that? Enroll into a competition, a Guinness World Record competition of, longest hours slept at a stretch. That might be valid, but once I do that, it's a one-time check, and then I have to go look for something else to do. So it's not sustainable. I can't do that professionally. Another thing is that for most people, what you're even passionate about, you might not be good at it. Take me, for example. Again, I say I'm passionate about sleep, and that's not a lie, but you know what the funny thing is that no matter when I go to bed, I can't seem to stay in bed for longer than 9 a.m. I would always wake up. So you see that I can't actually make it with this passion because I'm not even good at sleeping, And then, fun fact, Steve Jobs was actually very passionate about Zen Buddhism. That did not get him anywhere because apparently he wasn't good at it. And it turns out that you might have several passions, like you're passionate about a bunch of random things. Then what are you going to do? Because the advice, follow your passion, assumes that, there is one omniscience thing that you're born to do in the world that, is bestowed upon you, and it's like, this is your passion. But then you find out that you're interested in a lot of things. So then what do you do? And now, if I'm telling you that passion is not the way to go, I'm now going to suggest an alternate route for you, which is much more practical and actionable. Curiosity. Now, why am I a fan of curiosity? Curiosity is practical. When you're curious about something, it signifies interest. And interest means that you will be engaged with this thing. It will wake you up in the morning because you're curious about it. You will be engaged with this thing. And excellence takes engagement. Like you have to be involved. You have to be obsessed with something to become excellent at it. And curiosity also inevitably leads to long-term satisfaction. And that's why I am a huge fan of curiosity. And if I ask you, what are the things you're curious about, you find out that it's an easier question to answer compared to what are you passionate about. See? Let me talk about myself, again, for obvious reasons. Every single thing I have achieved in life has been, I find that they didn't read my bio correctly, not their fault. I'm always playing around, but like every single thing I've achieved in life has been as a factor of curiosity. Getting into software engineering was curiosity for me. During my undergraduate studies, I built a website with WordPress. I was trying to launch a blog, and I did that with WordPress. And that set off this, this deep curiosity to find out like how these systems that enabled people like me who did not know anything about being creative, about being like software engineers, to build something as good as that. And that led me into a rabbit hole that got me into software engineering and made me a software engineer. My pivot to developer education, curiosity. I wanted to become a better writer. I was curious about what it would take to become a better writer. And also for very selfish reasons. I started writing because I found out that the way I learn things is through repetitive exposure. And so writing made that very possible for me because I had to keep exposing myself to any theory or concept I was learning, and eventually it would stick. And in doing that, I found out that I got really good at it, and companies were, coming forward to pay me to do that for them, to kind of simplify complex products that they have into formats that, everyday people could understand them. I'm currently writing a book with an international publisher, and that came about with curiosity. I was just curious about what it will take to write a book, honestly. And I pitched to a couple of publishers. They accepted, and I'm writing a book. It will be out in December. I'm doing an MBA at a top 10, I have to brag, at a top 10 business school in the world. How did I get there? Curiosity. I'm just going to tell you the truth. The thing is, I'm curious about something. If I have the ability and the time and the bandwidth to explore, I do. And eventually, it all adds up to making me the excellent professional that I am. Now, you would think that you need passion to have a fulfilling career, but research has shown time and time again that there are certain factors that predicate a fulfilling career, and passion is not on that list. You have curiosity, which is your starting point. That the work interests you a little bit, because I think most people don't realize this, but like once you find yourself that you're procrastinating on things that you normally do or things that wouldn't normally take you a lot of time, the answer is that you've lost interest in it. When you're not interested in something, you drag your leg to get it done. You procrastinate a lot. The second factor is creativity, that on some level, the job is not monotonous, and you can apply some creativity to it. The third factor is that you find the work meaningful. The fifth factor, financial independence. This one is self-explanatory. If you're doing a job that isn't able to cater for your needs, primary needs, you're probably going to be unhappy with it. And then we have working with supportive colleagues. This is a very large indicator of job satisfaction. You have good skills, meaning that it's a job that you are good at or you can get good at. Having an undemanding job is not good for you because that leads to boredom. And at the same time, having an overly demanding job isn't exactly good for you because it leads to the type of stress that starts to take a toll on you and lead to burnout. The sweet spot there is having a job that is demanding. It needs to be demanding to keep you engaged, but the demand is equivalent to your level of abilities. Now, I want you to pause and think, if you're currently in a job that you like, that you're satisfied with, or you've been in a previous job that you liked and were satisfied with, you'll find out that most of these factors were evident. So in summary, that's that. And no, I didn't make up these facts that I just read. They're from years of research from Cal Newport, a resource that I like very well, which talks about like how people build fulfilling careers, 80,000 hours, and Road Trip Nation. These are people that have dedicated their entire life to doing research to find out how people end up with jobs that they like and are satisfied with. So, compelling careers have complex origins that reject the simple idea that all you have to do is follow your passion. And now that I've told you, I've given you the, encourage you to follow your passion, encourage you to follow curiosity instead. How do you find things that you're curious about? It's by answering these 3 questions. It's very simple, it looks simple, but if you do it, you get to a couple of answers. First, if you find out that you're going to die in the next 10 years, what would you spend the next 10 years doing? And it doesn't have to be factually correct at this stage. You just have to write down a bunch of things that come to your head. What can you do in the next 5 years or for 5 years, even if you don't get paid for it? And if you're the type of person that is just interested in a bunch of things, what is the common thread in all those things that you're interested in? The idea here is to just come up with a list, no matter how long it is, and then you grade it using the factors that we just talked about that leads to job satisfaction. So you list your interests on the first column, and then you ask yourself, can you get good at it? Do you have the skills to be good at it, or can you get good at it? Is it a job that will offer you autonomy? Is it a career that will offer you some level of financial stability? Is it one that you think is meaningful and can see directly how it helps people? Is it something that you can do for the next 2-3 years without losing interest? Because remember that one of the tenets of being in a satisfactory job is that you're able to be good at your job, and it roughly takes around 2 to 3 years to build any sort of capacity. Now, when you have that list from the previous, from this stage, what you're supposed to come out of is maybe about 3 to 4 with the highest ranking numbers. And then now the next stage is to prioritize, to come up with just one thing that you can pursue. This is one of my favorite quotes from Paul Graham. It says, if you admire 2 kinds of work equally, but one is more prestigious, you should probably choose the other. Your opinion about what's admirable are always going to be slightly influenced by prestige. So if 2 seem equal to you, you probably have genuine admiration for the less prestigious one. That's my answer to how do you prioritize? How do you now, if you've done that and you have a list of 5 things, how do you now grade? Go for the less prestigious one on your list. Also, the next one is, what season of life are you in? What is more important to you now? And which of those options align with what is more important to you now? If you're younger, you have all the time in the world to, get into something that will require you to dedicate 20 hours of your working day to it, take huge risks. But as you grow older and you plan to settle down, then that might not be applicable. So you go with options that align with your stage in life. I put this because in an alternate life, I would have been an excellent minister. I used to lead a choir, actually. But yeah, that's just saying, thank you. That's just saying, go with the options that align with what phase in life you are in right now. As the Bible rightfully says, there's a time for everything, a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to plant, a time to just find what time you are in and the options that aligns with it. And this is my favorite one. A lot of people say I'm very spontaneous, but I feel like spontaneity makes for the best stories. And so for me, whenever I have options to choose from and I'm uncertain about which way to go, this is what I usually resort to. Which one will make for a more interesting story? I don't want to leave this earth and my life story isn't very interesting. I want people to read it and smile and have the time of their life and laugh. So, now that you've found what you're curious about and what you could possibly pursue as a career path, how do you build skills in it? How do you now pursue it to confirm that, can you do this thing? Can you excel at it? First thing is to try things out in a low-risk way. Can you take an internship? Can you enroll for a class? Can you enroll for a class? At your place of work, is it possible to pick up projects that intercept with what you're interested in, but outside of the scope of your work? I do this interview series on my blog where I interview a couple of professionals, and this story really stood out to me. When I asked Corey how she came about her career as a technical writer, she told me that she, in high school, she found out that she was really great at writing, but then she wasn't sure if she could build a career out of it. So she went to university and she studied English. And while she was studying English, she enrolled in a couple of majors and minors, creative writing, technical writing. After trying all her options and majors and minors, she found out that she was much more happier with technical writing. So to confirm that she would be happy in the real world with a technical writing job, she went and got an unpaid internship. And after that internship, her mind was made up, so she started her career as a technical writer. And then at some point during her career, she became curious again about US writing. So she started like a master's degree in US writing, which goes back to my point of how can you try things out in a risk-free way. And after her master's degree, she discovered that she wasn't exactly passionate. She didn't exactly like US writing, so she went back to being a technical writer full-time. I wouldn't advise that you find something that you're curious about, you quit your current job for it. The economy is hard. Eggs and rice, very expensive. Don't do that to yourself. There's supposed to be something else here. I think I forgot it. But then the next tip is get into proximity with the thing that you want. I know a software engineer at Netflix who became a software engineer at Netflix from being a customer success representative. So she wanted to work at Netflix as an engineer, but she didn't have the skills to do that. So she got into Netflix as a customer rep, and from there, spent her evenings learning to code, and then after like about 5 years, she got a job, switched to software engineering in Netflix. Let me round up because they're already giving me signs. But now, I think for most young people, something I found out is that we're very scared of like taking risk and failing. And I don't know how we got to that point, but your youth is supposed to be the time of your life where you should be comfortable with trying things out and failing and starting over again. And so you're probably going to ask me, okay, so what if I try this thing and it doesn't work out? And my answer to you is, that's fine, honestly. No knowledge is ever a waste. You will probably never be starting from scratch. You will always be starting from what you know. Steve Jobs, while he was trying to figure out what to do with his life, once took a calligraphy class in school. Now, that set of knowledge did not become relevant to him in any way till about a couple years later, maybe 5, 10 years later, when he started Apple. And then they used that calligraphy knowledge to differentiate Apple devices in the market from like Windows. And this is one of my favorite quotes from him. It says, "You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you just have to believe that as you're trying things out, the dots will connect somehow, because believing that the dots will connect will give you the confidence to make trade-offs, make peace with the trade-offs you have chosen." My name is Linda, and this is my bio, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. So, yeah. Hi.